Hey everyone, Pastor George here with today's Bible study recap. And today in Bible study, we looked at Matthew chapter 1, verse 18 through chapter 2, verse 12. And these are two famous stories from the Christmas narrative. The first is of the angel appearing to Joseph in a dream to tell him about the birth of Jesus. And the second is the angels, not the angels, apologies, the Magi, showing up first to Herod and then at Bethlehem, and the gifts that they bring. And, the interesting things about these stories is what can you say that is really new that we haven't heard before? And so we looked at a lot of the smaller details in today's Bible study. Spent a lot of time talking about how old Joseph might have been and how different translations will actually try to insinuate a different age for him. So, for example, we looked at all of our different Bibles, and we have several different translations that are used in our study. And all of them are out of Protestant groups who've translated this passage. And the interesting things that other groups, namely the Catholic Church, has, I don't want to say changed. That would be incorrect. But the way that they translate some of the passages in order to lead more towards Catholic doctrine. So, for instance, right at the very end of chapter 1, it talks about how Joseph is, in most translations, it will say, Joseph did not know his wife. Of course, that means to have sex with her until she had given birth to a son and he had named him Jesus. Right. That's what most translations will say. But the Catholic Church has several different translations that they use, and not all of them say this, by the way. For instance, the New American Bible doesn't, which is probably one of the most widely used Catholic translations of the New Testament, or of the Old and New Testament, really. But the Jerusalem Bible, which is really cool looking, I think, does have this interesting way of translating where it says, where it basically implies that Jesus was not born because, I think it says because of sex. I think it goes something like, therefore, Joseph, the son was made not by Joseph having sexual relations with her or something like that. And they cut out the until because obviously in Catholic teaching, Mary and Joseph never had sex. Mary was a perpetual virgin her whole life long. So it was interesting to kind of look at those differences. And so even the way that we experience the story it has our theology kind of in its roots. And then, of course, we looked at the Magi, talked a little bit about them, right, how there's a lot of debate about where they're from. Most people think they're astrologers / priests from Mesopotamia, and how the gifts they bring symbolize what Jesus is going to do, right? Gold for him being a king, incense for worship, and the fact that he's going to be a sacrifice, and then, of course, myrrh, because he will die, right? He'll be put in the grave. So all this is just a way of tying this together. And, of course, Matthew is doing this in order to show that this Messiah, even though he relies heavily on the Old Testament, does not make this Messiah exclusive to the Jewish people. That is not something that's going on. So that's it. That's really what we talked about today. Just lots of details, lots of arguing about how old Joseph was, which was pretty funny. But maybe you have your own thoughts on how old Joseph was. I'll tell you mine. He was probably in his late 20s and early to mid 30s. And Mary was probably a teenager, either mid-teens or late teens, because that's kind of the general way that things went back then. So, anywho, have a wonderful rest of your Wednesday. I hope you guys, hope to see you all on Sunday for our pageant. And, of course, I'll have a new thing tomorrow. So, peace out.